So for this particular presentation, this is Module 5 for SATC 420, Sonic 5 as well. For this presentation, I did ExxonMobil refinery chemical release and fire. This occurred in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and this was on November 22nd, 2016. So the overview of this accident, some operators were preparing to install a spare isobutane pump into operation. This process also involved sulfuric acid. Um, to do this install, they needed to open an inlet valve, and this is where the point of the accident, the main source of the accident occurred. Uh, to do this on this inlet valve, they had to remove a gearbox because the wheel on the valve did not function properly, so they had to manually put a pipe wrench on the valve, turn it manually. And this is something that was, they said it was an approved action by the company, by ExxonMobil. And they said in the in the report how there was about 90% of the valves were all updated to a new style of valve where the bracket to get the gearbox off of did not interfere with the top plate on the valve. Top plate is, pressurized piece of equipment. So in this particular case, as I said, the gearbox, uh, the valve did not function properly. So they were forced to have to remove the gearbox. And whenever they removed the gearbox, they ended up removing some vertical bolts, which also held the top plate, the top cap down. And this was unknown to the operators. They didn't realize what exactly was happening. And then whenever they turned the valve with the when they turned the valve with the pipe wrench, the top cap released pressurized isobutane in a cloud form, which is believed to have been ignited by a welding machine more than 70 feet away. This is information gathered from investigation. And as a result of this accident, one worker was severely burned and another two were injured. I think in this situation they were very fortunate not to have any fatalities. In the picture from the title slide, you could see how it was a pretty big explosion, big fire, and for them to be, very close to it and not have any fatalities, I think they were very fortunate in this situation. So here we have 14 OSHA PSM elements, and in this particular situation, this was an operating procedures uh, at fault issue. They didn't have proper written procedures to do these installs of these spare pumps, and they didn't have written ways to remove these valves to turn it to open the valve manually so that they can avoid taking these bolts out of the top cap. Uh, as I said before, they had many valves in the plant were updated to a more modern system, which avoided all possibility of them removing those vertical bolts because the bracket did not have any interference with them. The original old bracket was mounted to the vertical bolts, whereas this new one was just mounted uh, on the top and bottom on a flange off to the side where it did not interfere with any pressure containing connections. Here we have the operating procedure at fault. Uh, these operating procedures were at fault in this situation because there was no written procedures on this process. It wasn't approved. They approved it as far as a company, but there were no written procedures on how to go through, with this process. The way the operators took the gearbox off was incorrect, and they should have only removed the horizontal bolts. Instead, they removed the vertical bolts, which were holding on the top cap. Written procedures for this process would help control the hazards and ensure the proper process on removing a gearbox. Off to the right here was a picture an illustration I gathered from the report. The left side, of course, shows how the incident happened. They incorrectly, you could see right here from what I was talking about, they pulled the vertical bolts out, which in return loosened the top cap. If you look to the right, this is the way it was designed to be taken off. All they had to do was remove the horizontal bolts on the top. As you can see here, they did it in reverse. They did it backwards. This is what caused, main cause of the accident. So this right here can illustrate that if they had written procedures on how to do this, it would have clearly said in the process it would have been established to take out the horizontal bolts instead of these vertical bolts, which caused the accident. What we can learn from here, the incident illustrates for us the importance of written operating procedures. This is a perfect example of procedures, written procedures done, set ways to do things safely to avoid accidents, as we've seen here. If a written operating procedure was in place on this, the correct process of removing the gearbox would have been followed, therefore avoiding this accident that occurred. Here I got my conclusion. In conclusion, we can see that the ExxonMobil was very lucky to not have any fatalities. As I said before at the beginning, they were very fortunate for this to result as good as it did in such a bad situation. It kind of doesn't make sense, but they were fortunate to not have any fatalities from this and just some burns. This is a very good learning for industry on the importance of written operating procedures. And as we can see here, I received all my information from the Exxon Frontier Chemical Release paper, the report on the csb.gov. Thank you.